Zoom recording. I got it. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I am just always full of gratitude to have the kind of people and the quality of people, many of whom I know, joining our Zoom conversations with Sustainable Hudson Valley. And in this case, members and friends of UGreen, which is Ulster County's new green economy network. Actually, the full thing is Green Economy Engagement Network, and it's really designed as a major part of the county's Green New Deal to build the business-to-business marketplace for the green economy, and also to create a direct channel for the county to understand the needs and assets and desires of the companies that we are now trying to grow. Even more intentionally than we have been. So I have been a Climate Act junkie for the last couple of years and have actually read the enormous NYSERDA jobs study associated with New York's climate law, which says there's going to be a net 189,000 new jobs in the state by 2030. And I attended the first workforce development summit that the county had and said, brought that up, and I saw these kind of unhappy faces. And the response I got was, okay, we're not having the greatest fortune in filling the jobs we have. So what do we do? And if we get anything right, in our work at Sustainable Hudson Valley, we try to have intentional conversations and, not oversimplify, but really kind of step back and ask, so what can we do and how do things work? And are there possibilities that we haven't seen before, So what we have set up for today, it's our first webinar experiment in this new initiative. We've got 39 members and counting. And Christopher Babcock on mute is a coordinator, so he's your point of contact, as well as me and Michael Sheridan, who's on our board. We're just going to hear briefly from 5 people, and there's going to be a 6th, and I will channel him, and I will tell you in due time why he is not on this call, because it's a very exciting reason. I want to invite Sharon Williams to tee it off with just a few minutes on, how the workforce development system works on, any kind of a growth industry, what's possible. And then we'll hear from Rick, Bill, and Sheldon in that order, from the perspectives of architecture, energy efficiency, and the solar industry. And then finally from Dawn Breeze, who's founding executive director of this very exciting program called PlaceCore. So with all of that said, I'm shutting up, and Sharon, take it away.
Thanks, Melissa. So some of you on the screen may know me. I'm Sharon Williams, and I'm the director of the Office of Employment and Training for Ulster County, and also for the Workforce Development Board for the county. And one of the things that we do, or our primary focus, is to support Ulster County residents in receiving the necessary occupational/vocational training that they may need to either upskill the skills that they currently have for the industry that they're working in, or potentially provide them with the opportunity to switch industries and find the skills that they need for that. So when it comes to our workforce development system, and that's, I'm not quite sure that's how we refer to the work that we do. We're not necessarily a system, and there isn't necessarily one way that we operate. It's basically based on the individual's need. But sort of jumping off from Melissa's question about emerging industries and how do we support those who may be interested in pursuing a career in these emerging careers, such as a green career, we partner with local training providers. And here in Ulster County, that is SUNY Ulster and Ulster BOCES, to provide those training experiences for individuals who are interested in entering the green field. What could that look like? It could be solar installation, it could be HVAC, it could be electrical servicing, whatever our local training provider is supporting. We ensure that we somehow are able to provide the funding for those individuals who are interested in pursuing those training opportunities. Usually what that means is a course will run anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. And if that person is an Ulster County resident, if they are currently unemployed or underemployed, or are in a job that pays them less than $22 an hour, we usually have the ability to provide the funding they need to now take this training opportunity for particular courses. I shouldn't put it out there that we can willy-nilly fund everyone. But what it is that if that training leads to some sort of industry recognized credential, we pretty much can pay for that individual to receive that training. So why do we not have gangbusters of people knocking on our door? I don't know. I'm not sure whether we are providing the training that individuals are looking for. I don't know if our training providers have the right trainings that employers may need. This is an ever sort of evolving conversation that we're having. And as the industries start to emerge within the county, we do try to be on the forefront of those industries to make sure that we have a training provider who can provide the training to skill up those residents who are interested in joining the field. And right now, those emerging ones, of course, are our green careers, as well as some of our technical skills, fiber optics, battery development and storage. Those are the industries that are coming into the county, and we are trying to ensure that anyone who's interested in being trained can find the proper training. And that's where we sort of have our snag. We're not sure that our training providers are providing all of the training opportunities that people are looking at. So that is sort of who we are and what we do in a nutshell. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Rick, can you tee it up from an employer's perspective?
Yeah. Well, we're a highly technical and creative practice and businesses. And we found, and I don't mean to turn it into a complaint session because it really isn't, it's how do we solve problems, but we found it extremely difficult to recruit highly qualified people to work in the architecture industry. And in our office, of the 4 employees that I have currently, 2 are graduates of SUNY Dutchess, and they're more mature people. But they are, even after 2 years of training, very, very green. Even after several years in the office, pretty green with respect to design and construction. And over the last few years, we've had to hire recruiters to actually try and reach folks that we are otherwise not reaching using Indeed and other methods and LinkedIn. And Linda Engler's on the call. She can attest to this. It's been a pretty heavy effort. I think part of it is when Sharon talked about, why aren't we reaching people? I think part of it is that it's really hard to reach people. It's hard to market opportunities out there. And my guess is that from an architecture perspective, people want to be or are aggregating more to urban environments for the most part. So it's hard to bring people in. That's one aspect. The other piece, which I've been pretty heavily involved with Ulster County, is housing, and a reasonable, affordable housing is difficult to find. And now it's worse. It's probably worse than it's ever been in the Hudson Valley. So I don't really have answers to it. I just know that, and then on the construction side, we don't self-perform. EcoBuilders is effectively a CM company, but on the construction side, it's very difficult to attract builders to projects, certainly in the residential space, I should say. And then I'm active with the Construction Contractors Association, as well as with the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association. And a lot of my peers are saying that they are having ongoing trouble hiring at reasonable rates for what they consider to be reasonable rates, reasonably qualified people in the trades. And there should be, I think there's nothing wrong about being a good mechanic, a good carpenter, a good tradesperson, and it's a highly valuable and important profession. And I think we have to find a way to perhaps market to that as being an honorable place to be. It's not, you don't have to be an architect or a lawyer or a doctor to be a valuable contributor to our society. So anyway, I'll pause there.
Great, thank you. And Bill, who is the person I credit with getting my attention to obsess on this issue. Bill McKnight from Energy Conservation
Who
Services.
does really important nitty-gritty work that needs people who care.
Thanks, Rick, and thanks, Melissa. Yeah, I made some notes for this this meeting because there's some important factors that I think all of us need to think about. What Rick touched on is that the blue collar jobs of the past are these green collar jobs of the future, and that's a really important part of getting the type of work that the New York State and the federal government have set for their goals for energy efficiency. And most of the technicians that do the work I do and that my staff do are aging out in our industry. The average age is 58 years old so we need like an army of young people and young technicians in order to meet those climate goals. And we need detailed hands-on training for building science-based air sealing and insulation work. We have to teach these trainees to what to look for in each building type so that they know what techniques need to be used and what materials should be used for the retrofits that we do. And we have to train the how and why in the retrofit process. It's not just we can't just throw people in and expect that the work is going to be done correctly and that the results are going to be the energy efficiency results that we're really looking for. There's currently too many auditors in our industry. There's been a lot of focus since I've been doing this for 15 years, but there's been a lot of focus with Building Performance Institute training at the community colleges and people taking the training to become auditors. So we have a lot of auditors, but we don't have a lot of technicians to do the work that the auditors put reports out. This is what we found. This is the leakage of this building. This is the work that needs to be done to correct that and make the building more energy efficient and more comfortable and healthy and safe for the occupants. We need technicians more than we need auditors. So I think the community colleges have to think about figuring out a training for technicians, not training for auditors. I think that's something that we've been sorely missing. And, we need to change the perception that people who work with their hands are less than in our society. Rick touched on that. We need long-term commitments, because we found that even with paid interns from BOCES, they last about 6 to 8 weeks. We get them trained, they're psyched, they're excited about it, but then they move on and they go off to college and we have to start all over and train new interns. And we're not getting job placements. That's kind of a critical missing link. And every time I seem to pay staff members to take BPI training or ResNet training, they wind up getting through the training and then quitting to start their own business. And a lot of them fall flat and don't continue with that. They find some other industry to work in. So I've kind of been burned a number of times spending money to training technicians and to become, skilled building science professionals, and then have them jump ship to go start their own business elsewhere. And so I'm not focusing on that as much anymore. And we've had to hire people from Tradesmen International, which is a temp agency that has trades. Today, I had a guy who's an electrician. He's doing attic insulation work. He hates it, but it's a job. He showed up. The other two guys didn't show up. So, I mean, I'm having even these temp agencies are having problems getting workers to show up to do the work that they're hired to do. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I've talked to Melissa about creating a training curriculum for technicians, having students from BOCES come and actually do the hands-on training, learn how to do this work. If they hate it, they hate it. It's not something they want to do. But if we get a handful of technicians that are trained, that really enjoy doing the work and understand the importance of the work that we do and the results that we get, I think then we can start creating this army of technicians that we need. And we also have to train for soft skills. And this is something that our company has focused on. Training is essential. Common courtesy, being on time, ready to work, being polite to customers, respect for the customer's home. I tell my workers, pretend you're in your mother's home. You wouldn't leave your mother's home with stuff all over the floor when you leave. You clean up, you vacuum that up, you put site protection down. We be careful about this home. This is someone's biggest investment in their life, and we want to protect that and show them that we respect their space. Not discussing controversial subjects with customers. I had technicians talk politics. It's like this. It's not a place to have discussions. If the customer has a question about the work we're doing, answer the question. If you don't know the answer, ask your supervisor or have me called, and I'll explain to them why we're doing certain things we're doing in your house if I didn't explain that to them in the first place, which generally I do. And we need support for curriculum development and training. That's really the main thing I want to leave you with is we really need to focus on curriculum development and training for young people that are interested in doing this type of work. And then I'll stop there.
Great, thank you, Bill. And passing it to Sheldon Jakobovich from New York State Solar Farm. And thank you all for just laying out your direct experience. I think that's really the value.
Good afternoon, all. So Bill and Rick have kind of touched on all the right sort of things, and it's true. A well-trained tradesman makes better money than an architect that can't get work. There's no question there, and he's right about training. He can train people. And if they're not getting paid enough, if they don't feel comfortable enough where they are, they're just going to go off and try and start their own. And as he indicated, most likely fall flat. Two-year trade apprenticeship in through a trade school or something like that, it costs money. I know my brother went through that. He's an electrician. He makes twice what I make, and he has half the worries. It's a great place to be. As a skilled tradesman. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And we probably don't impress upon younger people how important that really is. And the guy that's going to come in and work for 3 or 4 weeks and find that's not for him, obviously you've wasted your time. It would be better to hire somebody that's been through any trade school for 2 years shown that he can stick it out, regardless of what the trade is, regardless of his own outcome. Even if he fails, if he stuck it out for 2 years, if he's trainable, it's somebody that you can maybe go to. In our own industry, it's difficult, and it is ramping up like mad. It's crazy. Our own company is doing twice the installs today that we did a year ago. And it's not that people have woken up and wanted to be green. It's that they've been shocked by their utility bills. And it's only going to get worse, and we'll get more and more people coming. We have our own issues in terms of hiring, in terms of talking to people. Bill kind of hit on it. You've got to treat these people like they were your family, especially if you want them to not be afraid to spend $50,000 or $60,000. And that's a difficult call in itself. And then there's the installation end of it, where we have rules that we have to follow that come to us from the company I work for, New York State Solar Farm, is a SunPower company. So there's rules from SunPower, and we're closely associated with NYSERDA and the rules that they have, and which are very stringent. They go out and they inspect jobs that we do. And it becomes a lifeline to make sure the jobs that we do are quality jobs, so that we can get good references. And to have quality people means you can't just take somebody from a trade school and throw them onto a job. He's got to be attached to somebody who's already doing it for our company for a year. And so you can only grow as big. First off, you have to have the qualified people to add on, and then you have to have people to put them with, so that they can OJT, because it really is the only way you can learn how to do a solar installation is OJT. You can't do it in a classroom, and you've got to have people that are young and capable and know how to use a tool and are willing to bear the elements. It's an outside job, not for everybody. I used to do outside jobs. I'm too old to do that kind of stuff. You can't have, like Bill said, we're aging out. And so it needs younger people, and it needs, I guess, money to be spent to put kids through trade school. Cost my brother thousands of dollars to go through an electrical training, to become an electrician. It wasn't free, and it wasn't sponsored by anybody. It was money out of pocket. Go to a decent school, and then work through a couple of different companies to work up to, he's a union guy now, but not everybody is union. And to speak to a little bit about what Bill was saying, people come and then they get trained and then they go. It's very hard to be able to pay them enough in actual pay and in benefits to make them want to stay. I know a lot of these companies don't. Company I work for doesn't. I'm older and I'm semi-retired. I can afford to do this. Younger people, it's difficult. You have to then make enough money to support your family and to take care of the benefits that none of these companies are giving. And maybe that's someplace that Sharon's organization could be of some help in finding a way to support the people that Bill hires and get them some benefits, so that they have some incentive to stay where they are. I don't know.
Thank you. And maybe that is something that NYSERDA could be reminded of, but is that, I think what you laid out was really helpful. Did you want to say more, or shall we?
No, I think NYSERDA does. They do have programs. We look to NYSERDA for human resource now.
Mhm.
But we get it, but I know that we look. I asked before coming on to this program, I asked one of the managers who's involved in hiring, where do you go? He goes everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And we staff as the industry grows, we staff more, and we have really good retention. We lose a couple, but we have really good retention.
Okay, great, thank you. So now I'm going to disclose our missing panelist. And we're going to shift the the focus from the challenges to like maybe inklings of what to do about the challenges. And by no means am I suggesting that it's simple, but it seems like we've got growing industry, hard jobs, demanding training, hard to connect the dots, just plain hard. And at the same time, we have, and Bill mentioned actually at one point that one of his sources of employees was people out of prison. And so I've run into a number of other folks in other counties who are working with people who are kind of left behind and doing the nurturing that's needed. And we know that's fraught and complicated and not a guarantee. But I will just say that in the future, I hope to get us all connected with Gerard Lang, who is an example of doing that. He is the founder and president of Black Vanilla Cafe and Community Foundation, Black BLACC, and they are, the cafe is on South Street in Newburgh, in the block with the most shootings in the city of Newburgh. And in 4 years, they have not had so much as a window cracked. And he is an ex-cop and veteran who has really built relationships in the local community. And he has been working with the school system and working with kids on the streets and has channeled, I think it's 28 young people into career tracks, and 17 of them in the IBEW solar installation and electrical apprentice program. And you know what he has said to me, and I was just invited to a press event that they did at IBEW to launch. This was like an informal experiment, and now they're launching a formal program. And the reason he can't be with us this morning is that he actually got a last-minute meeting with the lieutenant governor to talk about their work. But I think, you know, what he does is very intensive mentoring, and, you know, has philanthropic backing to do that. So that's not a magic bullet, but it is a sense of direction. And with that, I want to bring in our last presenter, who I recently met. Dawn Breeze is with Place Corps, which is another organization mainly working in Kingston, that is investing in young people and helping them with the soft skills, with the sense of self-esteem, with the sense that they want to be where they are. And so I can't help but think that there's something useful about that. And Dawn, do you want to take it away from here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Melissa. It's great to be with you all. And I want to first express my gratitude in your candid sharing of the problems, because listening to all of you, it's been mirroring a lot of the challenges that I see in the youth that I'm working with, and also in the experience of even bringing youth into our program as well. And I think that I know, Melissa, you want to talk about the solutions. And I feel like at the same time that I want to share some of the problems that I think I'm seeing in our program working with youth that I think are continuing to trickle up into what you're seeing in the workforce as well. So last year, when I started recruitment in Place Corps, I went directly into the classrooms at the KHA's high school to lead workshops on what success meant to youth and to understand where they were going to be headed post-high school. Of over the 200 kids that I spoke to directly in the different classes, I would ask them at the end, and this is in May of last year, essentially, where did they think they were going after high school? And most classes had approximately 20 students in them, and between 4 and 5 students raised their hands. And of those 4 or 5 students, it was a mix between the military, college, and vocational work. So that number leaves behind about 15 students per class with 0 plans post-high school. No sense of understanding where they were going, no plans, and like a very slightly, I would imagine, kind of terrifying number as far as like what is happening to those youth and where are they going. And of course, we're also navigating the pandemic, so I'm sure this plays a huge part in that. But that is a really interesting number right there. So then coming into my program, I would say that we have the leaders and the lost. And I think I would say that the leaders, because they're stepping into a program that doesn't necessarily have a track record as far as where are they going. So it's youth that are curious enough to want to explore their place and themselves in the place and understand where there might be opportunity and possibility. Our program provides a lot of practical, professional, and personal skills. So things that you've already mentioned around soft skills, we do a lot of interpersonal communication work. We also do a lot of communications professionally because, for example, graduates of KHS still did not write full sentences at all on any applications. There's very little digital literacy. There's very little like professional writing skills in this. So we're working to develop that as well. Additionally, we work with entrepreneurship in this and financial literacy. So we're working towards understanding the entrepreneurial mindset and how that can be applied to all of these different ideas, but also developing skills around financial literacy. We do design build. A lot of we home economics, we kind of think about what is essential for a person, no matter what they do next, whether it's college, the trades, or whatnot, to build a healthy foundation. But I want to share that what I also noticed in our application pool was that we accepted 50% of our applicants in our first year, and not half, but at least 2 of our applicants applied with housing insecurity. And we did not have the means, I felt like, to really have those youth succeed in our program in our first year. We also do provide stipends in our program. We provide free meals. We provide transportation. We have college credit. We really try to offer a significant amount. And yet the obstacles to success that the youth in our place face are very significant. So for example, today I have a third of our students in program today because the messages that I receive for attendance have to do with lack of transportation in their homes. So fellows don't have cars, their families don't have cars. The public transportation system is very challenging for people to get to our place right here in downtown Kingston. Additionally, another fellow works till 11 o'clock at night and then has other like family that they have to support. So these obstacles around housing insecurity, in the course of this first trimester, 2 fellows experienced housing insecurity and became homeless. So these like undergirdings of problems are, I think, so significantly impacting fellows' abilities to receive an education in grammar and middle and high school, and then also degrading a sense of self because they're in such volatility. And the majority of my fellows experience acute anxiety, and all of my fellows are young people who graduated high school, who in our vetting system were ones that we imagined the most successful in our program, and yet we're having so much trouble. So I share that because my hope is with our program that we are able to build the capacities of these young people to be good workers, future leaders, change makers, and creators of their places, whether that's in college or any of the jobs that you've already mentioned. And yet I know for us to continue to have a deeper impact, we have to consider and integrate into our program a housing solution and a transportation solution and a monetary solution, because even with the stipend that we offer and the flexible schedule, we've lost fellows that need to prioritize the immediacy of paid labor that comes first. And also we've had fellows who we offer, for example, we do professional job placement. So on the job training that you've talked about, we have partnerships in Kingston. So fellows are getting placed in positions in like educational institutes, the radio station, a fabrication studio, farming, many amazing occupations. And yet it's more important for our fellows to be getting their daily paychecks that are sometimes minimum wages than to go to that training because they need that money. So, I think we're up against a lot, and in order for things to be more successful, we really have to consider deeper roots in these housing issues and in transportation issues and in nurturing younger people earlier. So I'll end there.
There we go. And you are doing it, and I don't want to be la happy, but can you tell us a story of somebody in your program who is successful or who is kind of looking forward?
Yeah, well, our first pilot, every person in our first pilot is successful, I would say, and that was not strictly Kingston based. We had fellows in our program that were from Kingston, but we also had fellows as far as Washington, DC and New York City. Currently, of the graduates of that program, we have one fellow who is doing their master's in environmental law. We have one fellow who works here in Kingston in doing a lot of, I'm trying to remember the nonprofits that they work for, but they work for 2 nonprofits currently in Kingston. 2 have become chefs. One at the West Taconic Diner, one here in Kingston. Again, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name offhand. Another is an urban designer and planner in New York City. So everyone is, and the other just wrote to me for a reference for a master's program in education. So they're all doing very well. In our current fellowship, we're only halfway through it right now, but it's been remarkable with some of the fellows. So for example, one young man named Connor, he expressed when we first were at our farm stay, we start our program actually in a residential period together where we lived together, and we did that at Hawthorne Valley Farm. And we spent 3 weeks there in intensive regenerative agriculture learning, but also a lot about learning how to be together and learning how to communicate. And in that time, Connor expressed how the last year at KHF, he spent the entire year coming in and parking in the parking lot and sleeping because he was so depressed and so disheartened with the school there. He ended up graduating by testing out, not by attendance. And he was very depressed and felt like learning was awful. So Connor has expressed how he has actually discovered or rediscovered that learning can be really fun. And he also discovered that he himself really does love the farming. And he feels that working his body, he's a big, tall young man. So he feels that he's expressed working his body and feeling the direct impact of his hands in the ground and the impact of growing food and providing that to local communities is something he's very interested in. So he has started to research in a local vicinity of his place where the farms are in this area, so that he's working towards applying for apprenticeship and further training coming up post Place Score in high school. He's also been working at Radio Kingston and has had the opportunity to, through Place Score, to be traveling with Radio Kingston for a lot of shows, and he's been gleaning a lot of excitement as far as community engagement. He's signed up to be a part of the food co-op here. So I would say Connor right now is already like a turnaround in a very short amount of time. Similarly, another young person named Shay has kind of essentially also rebounded into a young scholar and discovered how much she's actually loves learning and reading. And of the students we have now, 4 of them are already applied for college and others are interested in trade. So everyone, I believe, who graduates Place Score will have the next steps laid out for them that align with their interests that they're discovering this year. And we're working in deep partnership again with some of the local colleges and universities and SUNY schools, as well as vocational opportunities and training too. So I'm very hopeful. And at the same time, like I said, we recently lost one fellow to a full-time job, and we lost one fellow related to housing. So.
Okay, I cannot thank everybody enough for really laying out some realities here. And I just want to invite discussion. Try just chiming out or raise your hand or whatever. But what are elements of making it better? Puzzle pieces that, might come to us.
Hi, Melissa. I'm just gonna give my 2 cents just because I have to step out soon. But I do have a son in Kingston High School. He's in 10th grade right now. We did go to college night, and SUNY also was there, but they were not necessarily promoting like their training vocational programs. I think that's one of the parts that it's missing. The schools that do have the programs for training for HVAC, electrical, or retrofits, they need to make it look more appealing for the youth. They need to, but my son, just because he's my son, he understands how important it is to pay attention to climate change and to save energy and so on and so forth. But there has to be like a fair where they understand where all these initiatives and where all these jobs are gonna take them to. They have to understand how much money they're going to make, how long they're going to be studying, because a lot of them know that they want to go to college 4 years. Some of them are going to get scholarships and they'll have a path forward. But I don't think that framework has been put in front of them in an organized way so that they are incentivized to move forward in that direction. So that's one thing. And you know, going after that thought, if there is a path, and I know the county has some summer job programs for the youth, but if there is a way that there can be a path established, we have access to, I'm part of a nonprofit for a soccer, a group of 80 kids who are in the pipeline, who we can motivate to be part of this industry. But we need to give them the tools. We need to tell them there is money to be made. There is impact that they're going to have with the work that they do. And like many of the fellows here said, it's a respectable job. And it's not just college graduates. So my hope is that there is money for them, and then there is a path that we can tell them, okay, you start with this 2-year, you might end up making this much. Then if you train for that year, then you can go up to this level, and so on and so forth. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you, everybody, for.
Thank you, Sonia. Yeah, we'll definitely do follow up and share the video. I do want to mention before you leave, if you have a sec, we talk all the time with Christopher Marks and Barbara Rear at the community college, who have done a lot of creative stuff. It just seems like some of their programs, there's some disconnect that they are concerned about, but one thing they have created is a fundamentals of clean technology micro credential that is a couple, it's like basic electrical, a week of solar, and a week of energy efficiency, I think. And they seem to be able to get scholarship funding from NYSERDA to make that available very affordably. And I was hoping that Jennifer Geyer would be on the call. She is from SUNY Ulster. She teaches human biology, but she runs a couple of youth clubs, the environmental club and business club or something. So a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to a group of 20 kids who thought they were interested in green jobs. And part of why I was determined to have this conversation was just to say, all right, we have a little disconnect here. And is there a way that with the network that we're trying to pull together, that we can do a bit of a better job of bringing resources and human talent and job opportunities kind of into better sync? Michael, you got to unmute.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I do have a question because I apologize. I'm getting over a cold. I hear the need for 2-year degrees and technical knowledge, but I'm a professor of management and I'm about to go speak to 25 graduating seniors in about 2 hours. And I was wondering where you all see for your degrees fitting into this picture. Thanks.
Anybody? Rick, maybe, or anybody?
I didn't understand the question. Where do we see?
4-year degrees.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys have all this demand for technical knowledge, but I'm also, you know, I'm a
Well, so I'm a
you know,
huge advocate of education and the liberal arts education in particular. I know the more education, the better, I think, in terms of being able to do work well and to have a diversified, multi-dimensional approach to life. And someone who has a 4-year management degree can probably install, do air sealing or mechanics better than someone who potentially better than someone who came out of a technical school, if they want to go for it, and they'll be a better team member over time in that company and perhaps grow into managing or owning the company. So it's not, it's not either or. I think it's, I have a bachelor's in speech communication and then a master of architecture and I think that liberal arts education is critical to being able to be a good business person.
Great, thank you. Let's hear from Cal and then Bill.
Sure, just my own experience as someone who came out of high school, got a 4-year degree, did a couple of random sort of environmental like fieldwork type jobs that were all seasonal, and then wanted a steady job and got into solar installing. And first that the solar company I worked for was in New Hampshire, and most of the project managers did have 4-year degrees. There were a couple who didn't, people who were like really driven, but one of the things that came with that 4-year degree is like a better understanding of how to manage a crew versus somebody who might be technically skilled but not as good as at like working with groups of people and figuring out how to tackle a problem. So obviously that's not one-to-one, but that's one of the things that seems to come with that 4-year degree. And also just going back to the mention earlier of how expensive it can be to take these trades programs. I went into like significant credit card debt in order to pay for solar training at a time that when I kept hearing like, oh, there's going to be, we need people to install solar panels. This was in like 2012. We need people to install solar panels. There's going to be tons of jobs. This is an incredible field to get into. Now's a great time to get into this field. And I heard that and believed it. And then when I tried to get trained, I couldn't find any way to pay for it. Like I kept hearing like, oh, we'll help you get the training you need from like various community organizations. And then that never panned out. And I just bit the bullet and I paid for it on credit cards. And I carried that debt for like 3 years before I was able to pay it off. So I think that's also worth keeping in mind. Like when we tell people these jobs are good, you're going to get paid, like maybe you can get help paying for it, like be very, very explicit about how to get help paying for it. Because generally speaking, if someone is like, a lot of the time when someone's looking to get into these kind of careers, they're coming from a job that sucks. They're coming from a job that doesn't pay well, or they don't have savings, they don't have family wealth. They don't have somebody they can ask to borrow money. It's hard to get credit to take out a loan. So just something to keep in mind.
Good, thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Cal said, and I hear what Sonia was talking about, that we do need to have paid training and on-the-job training. I have a 4-year degree, I have a bachelor's in fine arts and illustration, but I took a lot of credential training through the Building Performance Institute and Indoor Air Quality Association, all these other trainings, and New York State to get licensed for mold assessment and so forth. So there, in order for you to have that kind of a portfolio of different skills that you have, skill sets, you do have to think about how you're going to pay for these things, like Cal said. By the same token, if somebody's fresh out of high school, fresh out of BOCES, and they go to work they can go back to school after working for several years and get some experience under their belt. It's not an either or. So you don't have to go to college for 4 years and then look at doing the type of work that's available to help the green industry to grow. You can do that work. And I've even had workers that took night classes while they were working for us. So there is a balance, and it's much more difficult now post-COVID. When COVID hit, I lost 6 employees, and our company has struggled to find new employees to train and get up to snuff. And so yeah, this is a difficult time in our society, and it's a difficult time in our industry. But it's not an either or. I think there's a balance. So Michael, tell your students to keep their heads up, and there are opportunities.
Great, thank you. Is there another hand up?
Yeah, I would just like to say that we're talking a lot about college and what you do after high school, but there's a lot of kids in high school that really need to know that this field is out there. There is BOCES programs to address this, but I really don't think that in the school districts, they address this as much as they should be at all. And giving kids alternatives that don't necessarily have enough money to go to college and aren't going to get that support that they need to do that. They need a way into the industry, and it's so important for the community and for those particular kids that would be advantageous to the field.
And not feel shame about not going to college.
And they feel shame about going to BOCES, which is just not, it doesn't make any sense. We have a PTech program that addresses kids that aren't able to or don't have success in high school situations, and they give them a path forward for a technology future. We could have something like that for sustainability.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Eric, a quick comment, and then I'm going to try to wrap up. I want us to, in the next few minutes, I will try to capture in notes what I've heard, but really be thinking about, so what could we do programmatically in the future about this? Eric, wrap up comment?
Just to extend Dawn's comments on the 80% of the sort of misdirected or undirected people in coming out of high school, especially in inner city neighborhoods. Outreach is incredibly important. We really need to focus on how to educate people as to what is available, and to try to reduce the stigma of vocational schools, because skilled trades are a necessary area that essential workers here we're talking about. So that stigma is a problem.
Thank you, Legislator Green.
And I'd like to also mention a program, Rochester and Albany moving into Buffalo, multi-apprentice preparedness program. This is a program that is reaching out to the people who've been left behind in inner cities, and trying to find out from a number of potential vocational possibilities what they're best suited for, and try to lead them in the direction and place them in training situations where they can create a career that they can succeed and excel in. So for people who have trouble writing their name, and others perhaps a bit higher up in the educational curriculum, it's really a question of trying to determine where their strengths are. And most people don't know where their strengths are. They have not even thought about what they are. So that kind of direction is incredibly useful.
I'm sorry.
I'm just asking Eric, what was the name of that program? It's multi-apprentice.
Okay, in Rochester, it's ROCMAPP, Rochester Multi-Apprentice Preparedness Program. I'm not sure what it is in Albany. That started up a year ago, and Binghamton they're trying to create a situation there. So this is something where I don't know how they braid their funding stream, but provides pay while they're trying to go through the program and figure out what they can do.
Okay, great. We will delve into everything that you're saying and try to capture details and you know, further evaluate. It is noon. Can Manajo Green give us a one-liner since her hand is up?
Yes, I wanted to let folks know that there is a Sustainable Schools Coalition that has started up for people that are working with the school districts, primarily right now in Ulster County. And they're focused on getting reusables and composting in the cafeteria, energy efficiency, solar, composting on site, things like that. But a career path to support a renewable energy economy, green buildings, etc., would be an important component of that. So I just wanted people to know that that's a parallel initiative, and I'll bring up
Okay.
this idea.
Thank you. All right, we have people needing to drop, but do any presenters have a really quick final comment?
I
Yep.
I do. Bill McKnight work and Marcy's work, Bill's so valuable, and to be able to somehow explain to your staff and prospective staff how important this, I call it nitty gritty work, because it really is. It's so very, very valuable. It's not glitzy, but it's extremely important. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. All right, people.
I just want to thank everyone for coming on. Melissa, thank you
Yeah.
for putting this on. I think it was valuable for everyone that was on.
Thank you. We will capture notes and, you know, we'll delve any way we can. I'm still digesting because there was so much substance here, but just, we will do our darndest to figure out what we can propose that's useful. And thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn, great work.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.